and welcome to another episode of the SydeBoob podcast. It's Muddy. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. I'm just going to bring up the links here just to make sure everybody can see that we are live. And so yeah, a lot's happened since we talked last week.
It has, yeah.
I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we got a ton of good clips out over the week. A lot of stuff that we talked about. I was really surprised at like how many different topics we were able to cover. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's like what 7 different things. It was crazy. I liked it.
Yeah, like when I was clipping it, I was watching it back and then I'll put a time mark. I'll be like, all right, this time and this time, that'll be a clip. And then I got halfway through and I was thinking, bloody hell, how many clips am I going to have to do here? And then I noticed as well, like, there were things we'd talk about earlier that could be clipped with something we spoke about like half an hour later, which I found quite funny as well.
Yeah, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't mind. I mean,
It was a
as
full
long as
circle episode, so yeah, that makes sense.
that's it, yeah. And as long as like listeners don't mind that, then I think a conversation it does go like that anyway. I think
Right,
like
goes in
you know what I
circles
mean?
and ebbs and flows, and,
Yeah,
and you kind of lose track of the one thing you're talking about, and then you come back to it later. Like it's good
that's
to have
it.
an outline, but let the casual conversations flow. It's for the better.
Yeah, and that's what I found about last time we did it is we seem to just enjoy conversating with each other, which I think like last time it seemed to come across. Hopefully, it comes across again this time as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as compared to when we did our last podcast years ago, I think we were trying to force it a little bit more, in my opinion. At least I was personally. I don't want to speak for you, but I was
Yeah,
trying to force this, like, force the podcast. You know what I mean? Like trying to make it bigger than it was, and trying to make it inorganic, right, if that makes sense. I was trying to force it. So
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I don't even think it looks very forced like last time we did it, but you could see aspects of it where we were. I'd like to call it try hard. Like we were quite try hardy.
I agree. I agree. I definitely try hard, and that's not to say I'm not going to try hard, but I don't want to press it. I just want it to come, um,
Yeah,
just be authentic, and just enjoy what we're talking about, because it's this is lighthearted stuff. It's not nearly as serious as last time when we were talking about MMA and news. Right? We're talking
yeah,
about silly things and things that make us laugh, and it's things that are happening around the world. So
yeah,
not trying to
exactly. I
force it.
mean, obviously, we come from like different cultures and stuff like that. Probably have different perspectives, so probably some hardcore stuff will bleed into it. Like
Sure.
it's inevitable, but yeah, I don't want it to focus solely on the things that are so divisive anymore. Like, not like that was our plan last time. It just kind of naturally went that way, funnily
Right.
enough.
Just yeah, and just I think it was a symptom of the time with
Yeah,
especially here in America with the heated elections and all that kind of stuff. It was just a symptom of the time, and now we're older and more mature, and we can handle these things a little bit better. At least I can.
exactly. Yeah, I like to think I can too. I was just a young 30-year-old then.
So, did you get a chance to actually sit down and watch the fights? Did you go over clips from the Fight Night Cannoneer, or how did you enjoy that?
Yeah, so ironically, I was clipping while it was on, so I had it on in the background. So I'd look
Probably
up
for the
when I did
best.
like them scream and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. I made sure to watch the Cannoneer one because that was like 5 a.m. our time. So I thought, I'm not doing anything else now. I'm just gonna sit in my bed, watch Cannoneer. Cannoneer is usually boring, so I thought hopefully that'll help me sleep. No offense to the guy, but that
Yeah.
was my thing.
No, for
But
sure, and
actually, it was
it was pretty good. It wasn't that bad.
yeah.
It wasn't that bad.
I
I,
looked at it as like a lower level Dricus and Izzy kind of fight. Like you had Barallo, he was quite sharp on his feet, and then you had Cannonier who's just constantly trying to blitz in. So with that danger of Cannonier, like it keeps you awake anyway, it keeps you excited, even if he's boring. Like the Izzy Cannonier fight was quite boring
very
because
boring.
he wouldn't explode as much. which I thought Izzy might do to Dricus as well, which is testament to Dricus. So even when that happens, you're still like on the edge of your seat because you know it just takes one marauding
Mhm.
forward from Cannoneer and it could end everything.
Yeah, yeah, and you see if you watch the highlights and watch it back, you can see moments where Cannoneer looked like he was going to take the fight. It looked like he was going to
Yeah,
win, and then just man, that guy's tough, man. He
yeah.
stood some heavy shots. He got messed up pretty good, and ultimately he took out Cannoneer. So it was boring, but it was good boring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was quite technical in a weird way, which I enjoyed. I've heard Barallo's good with wrestling and stuff like that. So the fact he wanted to beat Cannoneer on the feet, I found interesting. I think that holds him in good stead. So if he does move up the rankings, it shows he's got multiple ways of winning.
Yeah,
Like,
he is a
um,
well-rounded fighter, I believe. So
yeah, and we look like we're actually part of his nerd squad with our glasses. We just need a bit of tape in the middle.
right, just
Yeah. Well, maybe
yeah,
we can do that if he has a good championship run. We can start
yeah.
putting the because I do actually like the guy. I was very surprised how technical he was on the feet. Like that's why it reminded me of Izzy and Dricus. Because yeah, he looked like a Thai boxer, a kickboxer, which I love to see that. So
Sure, yeah.
yeah, good performance from him. And
Big step up in
it,
competition too. Cannoneer
yeah,
is not a slouch. You may tease him, say he's boring or whatever, but he's not. He's a really good fighter. I mean, he's no slouch, and he had a good performance against him. So good
no,
for
I
him to
agree.
step up.
Yeah, I agree. Like a lot of people like shit on Cannonier a bit, like because of his style, but the champion has his style. The champion right now has his style, and maybe I wouldn't say it's more polished. I just think it's more forceful, Dricus' style.
It's
Um,
more forward, I would say, and more
yeah,
out there. Just kind of more rushes and whatnot.
that's it. Like with Dricus, I've noticed I don't know if he does come from a kickboxing background or Thai boxing background, but he almost fights like he's in a Thai boxing fight where they go and then he goes
Mm.
no matter what. Like he always tries to get it back. So if someone lands
Yes.
a jab, he always tries to land something straight away, which I think that'll be the reason. Like if we put Cannonier Dricus in a fight together, I think that'll be the reason Dricus wins because Cannonier doesn't respond all the time.
Yeah, and I see that like every time you think he's hurt, he'll come back with that little flurry. And I think
Yeah,
that's ultimately what won him that Sean Strickland fight. Is Strickland was just popping him away, but he would come back with a little flurry, so it looked like he was doing more and being the
yeah,
aggressor. Whereas he on his feet he got beat up pretty badly. I mean, you see his face after that fight; it was pretty rough.
yeah. I mean, like we both thought Sean won that on points, but because he is so like explosive and it looks a lot more damaging, the way how Dricus goes about things. And yeah, so I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that I was talking about last week. Is like I can't understand him, but I think as I think about it more, I do understand. It is that kind of get it back style where if you get hit, you try to come back with 2-3 in response.
Yeah,
So it's like it's chaos, but it's like you said, it's like that Thai boxing style chaos where you hit me, I hit you, kind of a thing, and we just go and bang. So
yeah. And that's why when I was predicting the Izzy Dricus fight, it's why my head kept going with Dricus because Izzy likes to take his time and put his stuff together. Whereas I thought, similar to Strickland as well, if when Izzy's against that forward pressure guy who's actually doing that, he kind of like struggles a bit. Where I've got to give Izzy credit as well because he didn't seem to struggle that much with it this time round. Although he got finished, he didn't seem to he was in the fight the whole time and he wasn't like backing up a lot and stuff like that. So I'll give Izzy credit.
no, I think it was a good back and forth fight with Dricus, and I think those body shots by Izzy, man, those were adding up.
Yeah.
If it would have kept going, I mean, I give Duplessis like immense credit for taking all those body shots over and over again. That was a sight to see.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how he did, to be honest. There was a few shots where you could see it visibly hurt him and stopped him in his tracks. And
He just kept
I don't know
going,
if
man.
yeah, I don't know if you ever took a kick or a good shot, like well landed to the body. It's probably worse than the head because like your whole body tells you like, whoa. It's
Yeah,
almost like one of your kidneys or liver shutting down, like as you could imagine that would feel.
yeah.
So yeah, I've got to give him credit, like, but also to bring it back to the Cannonier and Barallo fight, what did you think about the stoppage?
No, I think it was too late. I think he was out.
Yeah,
It was so late, and I actually have it pulled up here. If you can see my screen, I know it's probably going to be a little small for you, but I am going
yeah,
to bring it up here. I thought it was way too late.
yeah. Like you can literally see where he's
Like
out.
he's out. Like just stop it. And then
Yeah,
there was more unnecessary punches, and I think you even said like that he just took 3 years off of Cannonier's stream because he stopped it too late. So um,
yeah. That's how I look at it. It was visibly out on his feet, and maybe the ref didn't. I didn't see where the ref was positioned, so maybe he didn't see that. But
he he
let's just say,
he fell like a sack, man. He just
yeah, that's what I mean. And it was so blatant. So
mhm.
I understand the whole like letting him, try and fight on, but when you've actually been fully concussed and you've only woke back up because of gravity and strikes, then like I mean,
yeah,
it shows how tough he is
yeah,
to stick in there after that, because I've been in that position where I've woke back up and, all what you want to do is run away, to be honest, because you're like, whoa, what's just happened? You know what I mean? So I totally got to give him credit, Cannonier, but the referee was just, it
just
was
too late,
atrocious,
man.
to be honest. Yeah,
Yeah. I agree, and just even watching it, whenever he fell over like that, I'm like, most refs would just stop it, just step in, don't
mm,
let him take those punches. Like he's clearly out, and I just you feel bad for him because there was so
yeah.
many unnecessary punches.
Like part of me wishes that Barallo just walked away with his hands up,
Yeah.
like and
Oh
let him
yeah.
slump over. But we saw in a Jalen Turner fight, I can't remember who Jalen Turner was fighting against, but I think it was Moicano actually. And he thought he knocked him out, and he turned round, and then next minute Moicano's on his back. So I can understand the fighters not stopping,
Yeah.
like totally. I'm not saying Barallo should have stopped, because you're told to keep fighting
Fight
until
until
the
the
ref
ref
stops
stops you or
it.
the bell rings, right?
Yeah.
So
But so I'm not putting it on him. That's just one thing I wish he did. I just wish he or similar to when Anthony Smith got knocked out by what's his name? He's fighting Alex next. He's fighting Pereira next. Roundtree.
Roundtree,
Like
Khalil Roundtree, yeah.
Roundtree had him out, and then instead of ground and pounding him, he just stood there above him like this, and then
Like,
it
are you
gives the
gonna?
referee ample time to go, whoa, no, I don't want this to happen. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
But like you said, we've seen it too many times to where somebody goes to celebrate, and I think it actually happened to Sean O'Malley. He had
Yeah,
walked away and kind of celebrated, but then his guy got back up. So I mean, it's
yeah,
like one of those things. Like as a fighter, yes, you're told to fight to the bell, but as a referee, you got to save the fighter, man. You have to save them because
yeah.
they're not going to save themselves. They have too much pride.
That's it. Like I know that from myself as well. Like if I was competing, I'm not trying to say like I'm this tough guy, but I was similar. Like you don't want anything to stop the fight, even your own consciousness. You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe there needs to be some kind of second referee. Like in football, we have a fourth official that's not on the pitch, but he can like tell things to the referee, like things that maybe he can't see. So maybe we need something like that going on, or like a camera recording thing. Like we have a thing called VAR, virtual assistant, I think it's called, where if the camera notices something that's not clear and obvious, they can then tell the referee. I think
Yeah,
like something
it's
like that should be adopted.
yeah, and in theory that'd be good, but I think it'd be too little, too late at that point. I mean, you're already I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean, in certain cases, sure, but like in a lot of those cases, to where it's like moments, are
yeah,
separate good stoppages and bad stoppages. Just it's like, would it be too little, too late?
that's it, that's it. But I think we need anything in that scenario. We need to try and implement. anything to try and stop those kind of things happening because like the way how he got hit kind of near, it was so like such a powerful shot.
Hmm.
Like it literally just KO'd him straight on the feet. So to keep getting hit ground and pound after that, it's just yeah, I couldn't imagine that myself, like
It's
being in that
unnecessary.
scenario. Mm,
Yeah, it was it was a nice end though to a kind of a boring middle of that.
yeah,
that. I don't know if you caught the two new Ultimate Fighters were crowned, and
yeah, that's it.
I mean, well, I mean, what are you gonna say? It wasn't a great card. I mean, it was a fight
It
night
was very
card.
meh.
It was in
Yeah,
the middle. You know, there was what 100 people in the crowd. It seemed like it was a fight night card. What are we gonna do?
I think we need to stop this. I don't know if that one was at the Apex or if it just had a low crowd turnout, but I think they need to stop these Apex fights because like this, it feels like you're just watching Ultimate Fighter. I know they had a final for Ultimate Fighter in that,
Yes.
but that's how it feels. It feels like I'm watching Michael Bisping fighting back in the day. Like, it's just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I mean it's like during COVID, the pandemic, whenever
Mm,
there was no people around, it's like that's when this Apex came and was fulfilling its role. But like we need to move away from it. There's no reason to keep doing Apex fights, like you said. If they want to do these small fights, there are plenty of small venues around the world that would love to have a UFC event that could pack it with a few hundred people, maybe up to 1,000 or so, whatever it is. But there's
yeah.
no need for it anymore.
I think they should kind of follow PFL suit and like so when they have lower down fighters, maybe from Europe, maybe do like European kind of tournaments and stuff like that. Because I'm enjoying watching PFL Europe. It's the only PFL I watch to be honest. There's a lot of local fighters in that to Manchester. So and like the Europeans, they turn up for their fighters. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So you might even get a sold out crowd in an arena for someone like Dakota Dicheva, who's already been doing that in Paris and all around like London and places like that.
Hmm.
So, I think that there might be something to that as well. Like it'll make them more money and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
another thing I find ironic, sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
you're good.
like the Apex was like USC's virtue signal in the COVID times. It was like, we're not letting this stop us. We're going to keep moving on. Nothing
Hmm.
will get in our way.
Right.
But then the thing they used to say is everyone's getting lazy now and just staying at home and not wanting to go out is exactly what the Apex is them being lazy and not wanting to go out the house.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's probably keeps the cost really low.
Yeah.
It can't cost very much to produce that show. I mean, they have everything they need right there, and so they just put like people who are just on the periphery of being like household names or people who may be on the up and coming. Like, oh, they were on a fight night, they were on a main card, but like,
Yeah.
when was the last really good fight night card? I don't know.
To be honest, the last one that was like at the Apex was when they had the big stars there, like when Tony Ferguson versus Gaethje, or if you look at like when they went out to Saudi on the Fight Island, like maybe Izzy and Costa, you know what I mean? So you're not getting an Izzy and Costa or a Gaethje and Tony Ferguson at them events anymore.
No,
So they just don't have that appeal.
no.
Like yeah, you get the odds like your Bo Nickel who runs through guys, or you can Chimaev who just runs through guys, but that's all what it is. You know what I mean? It's one guy vastly superior to another.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's they either put people who have a name value who are over the hill up against an up and comer, just so they can sell the show, or they put two nobodies together and say, oh, this is a battle for a top 15 spot. They just try to
Yeah,
make it more than it is.
yeah. And
Until
like I saw that they took on quite a lot from the contender series. So I've got a feeling a lot of our like your cannoneers and people like that are going to start getting put off the roster pretty quick soon.
yeah, I just wanted to. Can we talk about the top 15?
Yeah,
When I mean, I just want to get your opinion on this. Since when do we award a top 15 anything? Isn't it always top
yeah,
5 or top 10? I mean,
exactly.
top top 15 seems like it, in my opinion, and I could be wrong with this, but I feel like the top 15 came about like right when Paddy Pimblett was kind of rising, and he wasn't
Yeah,
a top 10 fighter, but they're like, we have to do something to put something next to his name. Like, am I
yeah.
wrong?
No, you're totally right. I look at it as like the Paddy Pimblett, Sean O'Malley, Bo Nickel kind of, and Chimaev kind of like situation is we need to attach a ranking to these names as quick as possible.
Yes.
And and it's like I understand that, but we all knew they were top 15, kind of level anyway, top 15 to top 30. Like, and the fact that you got guys now that are desperate to get into a top 15 is pretty crazy because
Put that
it
ranking
makes
next
no
to my
sense.
name. Like, come on,
Yeah,
man. This is embarrassing.
yeah. It
Like,
just
you
makes
need
no sense at all.
participation trophies for your ranking, man. Like,
That's what UFC is becoming though. Like, you got like I don't think Tom's participation trophy, but it kind of is with the interim thing. Like the champion's been available for him to fight, so it's not like
yeah,
it's through lack of availability or anything like that.
yeah.
And then, almost like I'm trying to think who else kind of fits that bill. I can't think off the top of my head now, but there's been a few like that over the years. Like I suppose Connor was a bit like that as well at times, where it's like let's just try and invent a belt for him, just so he has that belt.
And I think now, if you look at heavyweight, you look at somebody like Tai Tuivasa, somebody like Derek Lewis, who are just they haven't won in God knows how long, but they're still top 15.
Yeah,
You know, it's just
yeah.
because they have name value. You want to assign some arbitrary ranking to them to make it feel like they're important. When come on,
Mm.
man.
For me, I think it's almost offensive that again, I hate on Ty a lot, Ty Tuivasa, but I think it's almost offensive that he's like not just him, but people like him are like in get this special number next to their name. Like if that was boxing, no one would care that you're in the top 15. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's young up and comers that you could probably put in the top 15. They probably wouldn't even want that. They wouldn't even want like the pressure of that right now. Like let me get to the top 10 before I start getting that pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It was a tangent. This wasn't something we were supposed to talk about or anything like that. But
Yeah.
it's like it just the top 15 has always rubbed me the wrong way since they started
Mm.
doing it. It's just like, come on, man, this is silly.
Yeah, it's just so pointless, man. But yeah, another thing while we're talking about like UFC and that card before we get away from the card is I forget her name, but the lady that did the first round knockout, I called her female Alex Pereira on the Twitter.
Yes, you did, and I'll bring that up right here.
Yeah, I
I got
find
that.
her very interesting, and the reason why I said the Alex Pereira thing is because she's already beat Shevchenko in kickboxing or Muay Thai, so I find that interesting that she could be just like him, where she goes on a tear, and then if Shevchenko beats Grasso, then we've got a new champ like
Mhm.
that's literally been inspired to beat a former foe, which I love that kind of story.
It's literally like you said, Alex Pereira. He comes in, he has a few fights, and then he's fighting for the title. She could very easily do the same thing for the same
Yeah,
reasons.
she seems to have a great personality as well. Like apparently she didn't get officially a bonus fight of the night, but I saw through the week she literally commented on Dana White's thing, like
Mhm.
basically, what are you doing? How dare you disrespect me kind of stuff. And I thought, you know what, fair play, love, like
But she
fight for
got it.
yourself.
She got it. She
Yeah.
got the 50K.
Mm.
So good for her.
That's the one thing I do like about the UFC. They do reward people that are quiet. I don't know what the word is off the top of my head, but people that are quite forceful, like they do reward that. And I think in the fighting game, that's how you should be.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, but also like the biggest personalities, the biggest, boldest people will get the best
Mm.
fights because they're the ones out in front of the cameras and they're bringing the attention to the company. So I didn't know anything
Yeah.
about her until you had mentioned it, and then I looked into. I saw that tweet, and I was like, oh wow, it is literally Alex Ferrer female version. So that's it's someone to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing highlights from kickboxing or Muay Thai to see how she looks. Because
Yeah, see what happened with
I
that
think,
Shevchenko fight.
yeah, because sometimes I think it's not to say MMA fighters are easy to beat, by any means, but sometimes I think it's quite easy to look that good against someone who's like a wrestler or something like that because the footwork is a bit different. So I'd like to see what she looked like against other kickboxers and Muay Thai, and then obviously see how that translates with MMA striking as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's one thing to get a low level entry level fighter on your debut, but how do you look against the top competition? Number one, but also how did you look against your peers? Were you dominating your peers, or were you just barely edging them out, or how did she look? Because I don't know enough about her to even comment on that. So
Yeah, same, man. Like, it was literally that fight night where I first heard anything about her, and then I was editing, so the fight starts, and then I just hear a load of commotion, and I look up, the fight's finished. I'm like, oh God, that was quick. And then they mentioned on commentary like how she already beat Valentina, so I was like, wow, this could be a great story. Like, might be worth checking this lady out in the future.
yeah, definitely. She's 6-0 in MMA. So that's a good record to have on you.
Yeah,
Let's see, first round KO, first round sub. Oh wow,
she's getting subs as well.
yeah, it's first round submission in her debut in the UFC. So uh,
That's the
she's
thing.
she's got a well rounded game, and that could definitely set up something fun with Shevchenko down the line. Even if
Well,
Shevchenko
that's
doesn't
it.
win, think about that. If Shevchenko doesn't win, she could
Yeah,
use
it'd still be a
Shevchenko to
nice.
get to the title fight.
Yeah, it'd still be a great building block. And the fact that she's got a sub on her record already, that's impressive because all what you're going to think about and worry about is the striking with her. So that opens up so many options for her to just grab onto your arm, or or even if you take her down, she might be able to get your back eventually.
Get your back or throw on a guillotine or something like that, and then and
Yeah,
take you down. So someone to look out for, Wang Kong. Definitely should. Her nickname is the Joker, so it should be easy to remember.
yeah. It's a cool name for her to be fair, because like
Yeah.
she's got that kind of attitude to her, so it suits her that.
No, yeah, it was cool, man. All right, I'm gonna pull up one of these things I sent to you today, and I wanted you to comment on it because we spoke about it last week briefly. Dan Hooker. Obviously, you were telling Conor McGregor hold out for Dan Hooker, but we got this headline today. Tell me what you're
Yeah.
thinking, man.
Well, I think because I'm selfish, I think we should do a reverse. Paddy should fight Chandler because Paddy ain't that big, and not many English people like Paddy, like which you might be surprised to hear.
Yeah.
Um, well, yeah, the UFC think he's going to be this big English star, but I think you only find people in Liverpool that enjoy him, and as a personality and stuff like that. So I think give him Chandler, so Chandler can just pretend he's a star and pretend Paddy's a star, and then let the actual stars like Hooker and Connor go for it. Because I'm just selfish. No,
Yeah.
but to
No.
be honest, I,
Yeah.
I actually think it's a good fight for Paddy. That I think Paddy could win that fight. Um,
I
Hooker looked
don't.
great as well.
I
Do you
don't.
not?
No. I think
Yeah, I
Hooker's
can.
too long for him. I think he's too tough. He's not going to go out like some of these wimps, and he's not slow enough to be dominated like Ferguson. I don't see how Patty gets the W.
Yeah, with me, I just see it. I see it as quite an even fight. Like, so when I'm saying I think Paddy can get the win, I don't think it's like a full gone conclusion. But I think Hooker beats him on the feet, and I think Paddy beats him in grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Like, so that's how I'm looking at it. Is if each round, if Hooker can keep his distance and stay away from him and get back on his feet, which he has just done against a real great grappler, that stands him in good stead. And in fact, now the more I'm thinking about it, I quite favour Hooker
Coming
just because
around
of
to
the
my
last
view.
performance. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm thinking about the last performance and how good I forget his name off the top of my head, but how good the Polish guy was. And comparing to Paddy, I think he's a level above Paddy in my opinion. So if Dan Hooker can pull off that again, then yeah, that's a not an easy win, but probably be more easy than the last fight.
Yeah, I think that last fight was definitely showed Hooker's toughness,
Yeah,
his ability to get beat up, and then just his craziness. You saw him in his corner.
yeah,
After he's got pounded, he's like, "I love this, man. This is what I live for." It's like, dude, you
yes.
are a madman.
That's why I love Hooker. He's so like New Zealand, Australian, like his personality is he's so like fitting with them guys. Like just being tough, rugged and all that stuff. And like he literally looks like a kangaroo, which always makes me laugh. Like he's literally built like one of them posturing kangaroos. So, and I know that's kind of stereotypical because of where he's from, but that's who he reminds me of. He reminds me of them kangaroos you see in them videos that just want to fight
That
everything.
just swinging punches at people.
Yeah, like I don't know if you've seen the South Park episode with Russell Crowe where he gets about on a boat just fighting everyone. Like, I think
Yes,
that's actual
yes.
Dan
Yeah,
Hooker. Like, yeah, that's Dan Hooker. Like, that's the best way of looking at Dan Hooker.
that is funny. Yeah, because he just gets drunk and fight,
Yeah,
drinking and fighting. Yes, that's funny. But one of the things I wanted to go back to is something you touched on was Pemblett's not as popular in the UK. Can you expand on that? Because here in the US, like it seems like a lot of people really like the guy. So what do you
yeah.
think that
So
is?
basically, it's more of what he does. Like, so it's more of what he does in his spare time. So a story literally come out this week where a football player gave him tickets to go and watch a football match. But he had to sit. So he's a big Liverpool fan, obviously. But in this match was against Watford. So the football player gave him tickets to sit in the Watford end and said to him, "Look, you can't cheer, you can't cause problems. Like just watch the game, be quiet." He couldn't
Right, come
do
here,
that.
hang out. They had to be too
He had
brash and
to
out loud.
cheer.
Okay.
Yeah, every time. And so to put it into perspective, Liverpool were winning the league that year,
Mm,
and the team that he was watching were in a relegation. So in our leagues, you go down to a lower league, you get
mhm.
relegated. They were in a relegation battle. So for him to be like cheering and obviously it's going to cause a riot. So he gets kicked out. And then all of a sudden he's on Instagram like, oh, I hope you get relegated and all this. And it thanks to the footballer for giving me the ticket, which the footballer said, no one's supposed to know I give you this ticket. You know what I mean?
So
So he
he
got
just he
fined a lot.
doesn't. He's not a good person.
Yeah, I can give you another example. So in Liverpool, they all talk about being socialist, right? They all pretend they're socialists. But I don't think they understand what that means. Like in their opinion, they just care about Liverpool Scousers, the code. They just care about Scousers and no one else, which to me, that's not socialism. But anyway, um, so he claims all this a few months ago or a few years ago. He jumps the train, instead of paying the ticket, he jumps it. The guy that works at the train station, who's just a working class man, obviously asked him to pay for his ticket because that's his job.
Yeah.
Paddy films him and starts calling him a tramp, starts telling him to get a better job and all this stuff. So it's
Wow.
like, where's this socialism, bro? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I can probably say a lot more things, like, but I think those are good examples of why he's not very liked here because again, like look, Scousers, they have this weird Scouse socialism. They're kind of like Hogwarts, right? They have a term for anyone who's not Scouse called a woolly back. So if you're not from Liverpool, you're a woolly back, and it's just all these weird little things that are like they say that Scouse not English, but then are happy to live off English benefits,
Right.
little
Right. Right.
things like that.
It's
Yeah,
it's
so
it's
your
a
Scouse not English until you don't want to work. You know what I mean?
okay. I got you. So
Yeah.
it's a weird like it's a Liverpool thing, and
Yeah,
he's just like that shining example of the douchebag Liverpool thing.
yeah. Like Darren Till, he was quite well liked because he didn't jump into that stuff as much, which in England it's quite divisive because a lot of us agree with what Liverpool say. It's just they take it to an extreme and then kind of make it look silly. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because
But
it's definitely different over here because we like I understand that that being an American, I understand that you have different cultures within different areas of the UK. You know, as small
Yeah.
as that island is, like it's you guys are really diverse, and I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's it's always been fascinating to me, like how that small island is like you have all
Yeah.
these different subcultures within it and how it's
Yeah.
developed and whatnot. I mean, it's the
And
same here,
that's
but
one
like
thing. Sorry to
it's
cut
just
you off,
weird.
but yeah, I just want to say this as well, that Manchester and Liverpool do have a big rivalry. So I'll be biased as well. Like I can totally admit that, like I think it's probably the biggest rivalry in the country is Liverpool and Manchester. So
And
that
that's
that
all
probably plays
over
into it.
football, soccer.
No, I can go back further. So Liverpool are on the seaside, and Manchester is inner city, is landlocked. And this is back in the 1700s, like when we're importing, exporting nation. Liverpool were overcharging for taxes for what's coming in their docks to get fingered in Manchester. So what Manchester did is we built a ship canal, and then so everything that would go to Liverpool, we undercut them in price, and then it comes to Manchester, and then that's how Manchester become the industrial. That's how the industrial revolution started, because we then started exporting and doing all the cotton stuff and all that. So because of that happened, that left Liverpool quite derelict and like very like poverty stricken, and then Manchester become like the biggest city in the world at the time. So that's where it actually stems from. And then obviously the football then continued that.
That's cool. That's a awesome piece of history I didn't know about. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, like our rivalry kind of shaped the world. Like if it wasn't for Liverpool overcharging, then we wouldn't have did what we had to do and create the ship canal, and then we wouldn't have basically sparked the industrial revolution, because a lot of ships were stopping, didn't want to go to Liverpool because of the high taxation. So yeah, like yeah, there's some history for you. Not even a lot of Manchester and Liverpool people don't know that's where it started out.
Well, I like it. I enjoy that. That's cool. I'm a big history guy. That's what I got my degree in. So anytime I can learn something new, I love it. So appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm big on history as well, especially that period. But yeah, so I'm kind of glad I could explain that, because like everyone puts it down to football, people even put it down to music or other cultural differences, but the reality is it was business that literally started all that. So
That's
yeah,
cool. The Industrial Revolution started a rivalry that continues on the football or the soccer pitch now. So
yeah, that's it. So like if you see is so even in our logo we have a ship to represent,
I got you.
like yeah. So and I think Manchester City have a ship as well, and I'm not sure if Liverpool do. But yeah, so anything to do with Manchester, we tend to have a ship in the logo as well.
That's cool. And then so help me out. Manchester and Manchester City. That's two different things.
No, sorry, Manchester United and Manchester City are the two teams in Manchester. Sorry about that. Yeah,
No, that's fine. I didn't understand. Two different
yeah,
teams in the same city. I got you. We do that here,
yeah,
football sometimes. So in the big cities. So is what Manchester would be what, one of the biggest cities in the UK now, or
yeah. I'd say so. Because we have Greater Manchester as well. So we have Manchester where I live, and then we have Greater Manchester, which includes like Bolton, Oldham, Blackburn. Like they're kind of towns and parishes that we've allowed to come into our city. So yeah, it's always expanding as well.
gotcha. So we're gonna move on from that, and I wanted
Yeah,
to talk, something you wanted to talk about that I think kind of goes along with this is the Saudi influence on
oh yeah,
the MMA and boxing because I see a lot of um, whenever you talk about Manchester, you talk about like it's a big city, a melting pot, and I know there are a lot of people from the Middle East there. So, kind of segue into the Saudi Arabian influence on boxing. Is that something you're noticing in your city, or is that something that you're just noticing just in general?
and just in general, to be honest, like my concern is more of like how if they do monopolize it, which it looks like they are doing, then what happens to the boxers they might not like on a personal level? Like no matter how good they are, like and also not to get too into religion and stuff, but also female boxing. Like female boxing has just started booming in the past few years,
Mhm.
and I'm led to believe they don't really care much about it unless it's like a big money one. So that also worries me as well because I don't just want to see Katie Taylor, I want to see the future Katie Taylor. You know what I mean? So that's my concern with it. It's not something I've noticed happening as of yet, apart from with maybe Canelo and Tank. But other than that, it doesn't seem to be happening massively at the moment.
So you think just like that a huge influx of money from that country who has very staunch beliefs about certain things could influence the sports landscape? Is that kind of to sum up what you said? Like whoever their favorite people are, because they have so much money, they can kind of manipulate things. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so a good example is like you can quite clearly see that Turkey Al Sheikh favors in the heavyweight division, he favors Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Whenever he's promoting Fury Usyk or AJ Usyk, always what he talks about is if AJ wins, he's going to fight Fury. If Fury wins, he's going to fight AJ. And so that makes me worry for like people like Usyk who's a great boxer, great champion, but he hasn't got that big personality, so he's not generating the big money and the big publicity. So he's kind of getting left on the back foot. Like I think we're only still seeing him because he's winning. Like otherwise, he would have been pushed aside. Like
Mhm.
if Fury won, I don't think we'd see a rematch.
Gotcha. So I guess to challenge that and kind of push back, would like can't you say that about any company that owns any promotion? Like they would always push the people that they favor the most. So it wouldn't even. I mean, I understand that the Saudi money right now is gigantic, but I mean there have been companies come and go that had their favorite people, and then they pushed them to the moon. So is that any different, or do you think it's just like a cultural thing?
Um, I think like so if we contrast MMA and boxing. So MMA has this already where it has the big company with the big money that decides what happens. They decide who the champion is of MMA, essentially. So
Mhm.
like it was we touched on last week with Francis Ngannou being the lineal heavyweight champ. A lot of people have forgotten about that because of the size of the USC machine, and they have actually actively been trying to erase anything to do with
Mhm.
Francis from the UFC. And so, which is ironic because Francis went to Saudi to make the money back that he
Right.
was losing from UFC. But that it's them kind of scenarios that I worry about. Like similar with, I'm trying to think of another good example. Like similar to Mohammed Makayev, like the UFC just, he's a future fighter. The UFC don't like him, so they've cut him. Not
Mhm.
not big based on his fighting ability or anything to do with what he does in the octagon. It's all to do with what he does outside of it. And that's my worry is if we get to that point with it.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but again, I'll just say like you could say the same thing about literally any company that owns anything. You could worry about their possible influence, and I just wonder
Yeah.
if what we're or what you're saying you're scared of is like that it's an unknown, right? Like at this point,
Mm.
we know the UFC pushes certain fighters. Like John Jones is still one of the top 5 pound for pound fighters, and he hasn't fought anybody in like years. You know what I mean? So like, is it because of the unknown? You just don't know where it's gonna go. That would be the only pushback I give you.
Yeah, I think so. I do think you are right. It is the unknown because I don't know. I'm just going off what people assume what they are. Like I don't know how. Like from what I've heard, the new Saudi regime is trying to move back from old traditional ways of thinking. I have heard that from I can't remember the king's name or the prince's name. It's MBS or something like that. They call him. Like I know he has actively been trying to move away from the old traditions and stuff like that. But my worry is like just how much of a grip they're going to have on this sport, and then how that's going to change things. Like, is drug testing going to be changed because of it? Like things like that, because they don't even have a commission out there. Like when there's British fights, the British Commission tends to be the one ruling over it. With UFC, I'm not sure what commission does it when UFC go out there, whether it's Nevada or someone like that. So that's my other worry is like if they're bringing commissions in, then how much influence are they having over the commissions as well? And like you say, yeah, that can happen with every big company, you know what I mean? But I just think their influence is so much more than just an average company. It's like back in the day, you might be able to correct me on this, but the Indian trading like thing that I can't remember what it was called officially, but there was an Indian trading company which practically ruled the world because it was such a big business, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the West
And
India Trading Company.
yeah, and
Hmm.
that's my worry is we have something like that within the sports world.
Gotcha. And I think the big worry for it would be definitely in women's sports because it is. I do understand the Saudi regime is trying to be more progressive or whatever, but I mean, let's face it, they haven't been the most open on women's rights and whatnot. So I do agree with you on that. Women's sports, if
Yeah,
the Saudi money does infiltrate every single aspect of what we're watching, that what happens to them.
yeah,
Um, so it could severely hamper their ability to make money because they would probably only be able to fight here or in the more Western countries. And everybody knows you go to Saudi Arabia to make all that money. So I get what
that's
you're
it.
saying and I hear you.
Yeah, because like you say, if the females have to stay fighting over in the West, then it's to rent out Wembley for your promoter to rent out Wembley for you to fight that costs so much money. Whereas they're not paying like rental fees out there and stuff like that because the stadiums are owned by them. So yeah, it's just like you say, if they do want to neglect that side of things, then I'm worried that female boxing will just die.
Yeah, and nobody wants to see that, obviously. And I just, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to happen because I know you haven't followed it that closely, but the WWE has done a lot of events in Saudi Arabia, and at first they made them like wear these big T-shirts and full get-ups, and then now like they're actually able to wear like their uniforms, but like more modestly dressed or whatever. So
Yeah,
I think you can kind of see like that progression, but it is still a concern.
yeah. Now that's good to see that through WWE they are kind of moving forward as well. Because yeah, like that was my worry. And I did see an old video of I think it must have been the first event where the ladies were in like purple suits and it looked strange,
Yeah, they're wearing like big
because
shirts over their well, I don't know what they would call it, their outfit, their uniform or whatever.
yeah,
So it's just weird.
because like I understand, they have their own way of doing things out there, but no boxer wants to be fighting all covered up. It's just not. It just doesn't make sense.
I
Like,
could you imagine being out there in a full head to toe burqa trying to box?
yeah, that's it. You try to get your jab off, and then what are we? Yeah, and then can we just swap boxes? Like, could Katie Taylor like put it on and pretend to fight as
Yeah,
some prospects? You know what I mean? And weird
it,
things like that.
yeah. It's that's a silly breakdown of it, but it is a big concern, and I echo your
Yeah,
sentiment on being worried about if there's
but
so much influence.
yeah, because my worry is like Katie Taylor's a good example of this. So. Boxing was outlawed when she was upcoming for females in England and Ireland. So she literally pretended to be a male and called herself Kane Taylor and would have to fight males. And that's how she got it popularized. So the fact that she had to do that and like literally beat all the males and stuff like that, and then we might have a similar scenario coming back. Like we might as well just embrace the trans in boxing thing in that case, you know what I mean?
You know, no comments.
Yeah, so I'll get too deep into that one. But but yeah, like that is my worry. I think I've kind of outlined it as much as I can.
Yeah, no, and I just want to go over it because it was something you had brought up, and I wanted to make sure like I understood what you were talking about, and give you the opportunity to kind of express those worries or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like I say, it's not a pressing concern right now. It's just something I can see in 10 years, like if it keeps progressing. And then I hope I'm wrong. Um, that like they start taking females out there and they have big fights and they get big money too because like Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, even though I don't like her, Clarissa Shields, like they all deserve to be getting paid as close to the men or as much as the men as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, and I do. If they're bringing in those big paychecks, they definitely deserve those big paychecks themselves. So, and I
Yeah,
think to go kind of to wrap it up in a nice little bow, the biggest paychecks right now are in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and they deserve to have that platform. And if it's so suppressive that they can't, then that's a shame. And then we've got to figure out how to I guess make that economically viable here for them, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. That's it. It's almost like the Ronda Rousey situation with UFC, like where UFC were like, no, we'll never have female division here. But then there was someone that was just clearly undeniable that they had to take on. You know what I mean? So I think we are in that moment right now with some of the female stars, but then will they get phased out? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we had it with the Amanda Nunes. She became such a big star, and her star was rising, and then she left to do her own thing. So it's like we have to push that next generation and see who that next big star is going to be. So, and
Yeah.
it could be your girl Dakota, who
Mhm.
you said her dad is your coach, or what was that situation again? Remind me.
Yeah. So basically, her mum was my trainer
Oh, her
when
mom.
when I was
Sorry.
a kid. Yeah, Lisa Howard. Yeah, so she trained everyone where I live with Thai boxing. So yeah, and she was a world champ herself, well regarded in the sport. And then Dakota, I don't know what she did in Muay Thai because she's a lot younger than us. So I think most of her career has been in MMA, like as a professional.
No, that's cool. I feel like that's like that connection that you have to that could be maybe you could get in contact with your old coach and get her on the show or something, and then we can kind of build
Yeah,
up to like we were talking about, building up to getting somebody on here who is in
that
the
is my hope, to
industry.
be honest. That is my hope because I was quite close with her cousins growing up, Dakota's cousins, and I'm pretty sure my mum will remember me from when I used to train. So hopefully I can say, look, do I really help us out and just maybe sit on a video for 20 minutes, let us ask you some questions and
Yeah,
that will give us a big boost.
yeah, no, for sure. And that's that you have that connection that could be, and like I said, 20 minutes don't take up too much of her time. Just kind of
Yeah.
get her ear, and then that could lead to who
I
knows what
think she's
else.
actually in your state as well, because I know she was training with America's top team.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so we might even be lined up with her time as well, doing it at this time.
She's American top team. That means she's in Coconut Creek. Is that where they are?
Yeah, I think so. The Miami one.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so that would be like 4 hours from here.
Oh bloody hell! Yeah, I forget how big everything is out there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Though, but she could we could be aligned at this time to do it with her,
Hmm.
instead of having to do it in Manchester time. Because
Sure.
last I heard, that's where she was training. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if she's at ATT, then she's still in my same time zone, obviously. So
yeah,
it's that'd be pretty cool. But I mean, baby steps, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. I don't want to like annoy her too much and be like, hey, now that you're doing well, here I am. You know what I
Right.
mean?
No, for sure.
But
I would want to do that
obviously,
anyway.
I
I
will
wouldn't.
ask. Yeah, obviously, I will ask in the future because it's a passion of mine to talk about anyway. And the fact that, I can be like, oh, I was fighting when your cousin Danny and Callum was fighting, and I remember you as a baby and all that kind of stuff. It might be nice for her to be able to talk to someone who can actually remember it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, and then that actually I'm gonna deviate a little bit from what we plan to
Hmm.
talk about. Can you? I mean, you've mentioned that did Muay Thai, right? Whenever as you
Yeah.
were growing up as a kid, how long did you do that? And like, just talk through like just your experience with it.
So I started out when I was about 5 or 6. I was small, like on. So I live on a council estate, which is, I've said it before, it's like a project in America, like, so it's pretty rough. So my parents like thought, maybe you should learn some fighting. So I got into it through that kind of, so I didn't get bullied with my cousin. Um, and then I started under a guy called Pele, actually, who was quite well known. It's not the Brazilian Pele who's
I was gonna
famous
say,
in kickboxing.
Pele, man, you need it.
Yeah, yeah. It like there's two Brazilian Pelés. There's one from football and one from kickboxing. He's neither of them. He's full on
he's,
English.
he's the
Like,
third one.
yeah, yeah.
There are two
But
famous Pelés. He's the third one.
yeah, but apparently he was very well known in the MMA scene. Like, he's gone on to do get arrested for things that I'd rather not talk about right now. So
Yeah. Okay.
maybe that's what you'll see if you type in his name. But yeah, so he trained me at the start, and I struggled with him. He wouldn't let me fight and stuff like that. So then
Was it
after about
a talent issue, a language issue, holding you back because you were young? What do you think?
to be honest, I just think I don't know how to say it diplomatically, but I think it was a bit of a race thing.
Mm.
Like that's what my dad used to kind of suggest because my cousin was the same age, same size as me, and we neither of us were better than one or another. But he would always get fights, and I just would never get considered. And my cousin was mixed race, so that's the only thing we could look at. But I'm not saying that definitely was it, but that's what
Mm.
my dad used to say. I was 6 years old, so I don't know. But
Gotcha.
yeah, so and then Lisa took over his gym with a man called Leroy, and Lisa assured me she was like, "Excuse me, movies are repeating on me." And Lisa pretty much assured me, she said, "Don't worry, I'll get you in a fight." Because I was begging to fight all the time. And then, so I get into my first fight, which was a demo against someone who was like 15 and I was about 8. Like, it was supposed to be like a demonstration.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's legal, I
But
guess.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know what the legalities was. But I didn't take it as a demonstration. So I was just trying to beat this poor kid up, like,
Yeah.
and it must have been proper annoying for him because I was going as hard as I could, to the point where the referee stopped the fight because he was like, "This is a fight," you know
You're
what I
doing too
mean?
much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my first, and then I went on about 4, 5, 6 fight winning streak, and then I started getting like itchy. I wanted a belt then because my my friends at the time, they were all the same age as me, but they had plenty more fights than I did. And they were like European, British, English champs at the time. So I was like, I want that. So then I managed to get into a Northwest title fight, which is my region, in Liverpool, funnily enough. And funny story about that is so every fight on the cards, any kid that was from Manchester, if it went to points, the other
You
kid got the
lost.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get to my fight and my coach, like, because I was in the back, so I wasn't paying attention. I was just training in the back.
Mm.
And then I get to my fight and my coach says, "This is going to be a tough one. You're going to have to stop the fight. Like, if you want this belt, you're going to have to stop the fight." And I
So
get
go
to
kick his
about the
ass,
third round.
basically.
Yeah, and I get to about the third round, the third of 5 rounds, and I was losing on points anyway. So, at that point it's inevitable I have to knock him out. And I remember he threw a kick at my body. I managed to catch his kick, sweep his leg, and in those days you weren't allowed head contact, but I used to find ways around it. So I sweeped his leg, and then I used the momentum of pushing his body onto the ground, and then he smacked his head off the ground and concussed. So that was my first ever knockout as well. It's quite scary to be honest, seeing a kid just pull out
Just
on the
lying
ground.
there. Yeah. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
like
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't celebrate like until like, because I obviously you think you've killed someone when you've never done anything like that before. So I remember that feeling of being like, whoa, because I saw his head full on just go off
Mm.
the thing. So I remember thinking, wow, that was scary. And then,
At
so
the same
yeah, and
time, were
then
you like, I want to do that again, or was it
yeah,
just that was scary?
yeah, straight away, soon as because he come to pretty quick. As soon as he come to, I was like, now I knock him out with a punch or a kick. You know what I mean? Like now I know what that feels like.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a few more fights after that, defended him about a few times, and then the funny thing was the guy that had the English title I'd already previously fought before I either of us got titles. We already fought before
Mm.
that, and I think he had good connections, so he managed to jump above the regionals, get the British, and he just wouldn't fight me. So after a while, I got a bit tired of that. And then that's how I stopped basically, was a guy that had the British had already lost to me, so he didn't want to defend it against me at any point, you know what I mean?
And how old
And
were you at
like
that point?
about 12, I think,
So
like
you
just
fought
going
for
into
like
high school.
4 years.
Yeah, yeah. I think no, I think I was about 14. I think I fought for about 6 years.
Okay.
So from the age of like 8 to 14, like sporadically though. Like from 12 to 14, it was more sporadic. Like and yeah, like I remember I did boxing as well. Like so the gym where I trained, Sale West, you had a boxing side and a Thai boxing side. And I started doing boxing as well. And there was this big tall guy in there. And I remember thinking, why is this adult sparring with kids? Like, why is this grown man in the kids sparring session? It turned out that man was called Luke Fury, who then was called Tyson Fury. Um, so not to say I trained with him personally, but I
Right.
trained in the same
You
session
were
with him
there.
a couple of times. Yeah. And Ricky Hatton also, not at this time, he was already way ahead, but he also did his amateurs at the old gym I trained at as well. So he'd come back every now and then and give us like a pep talk and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of like the culture of the estate that I live on, to be honest. It's just boxing, Thai boxing, football.
That's cool. I mean, I think uh, getting started at a young age, it probably helped shaped you as a fan of MMA and boxing as your life kind of progressed because it's been such an integral part of who you are. And I think
Yeah,
that's good to have you on this podcast because you do have that experience of, getting kicked in the gut. You can kind of
yeah,
walk through how that feels and how that resonates. Whereas, I don't have any experience with that. It's just I'm just a big fan. I've been a fan for years, and it's just two different angles of the same subject. So that's cool that we
yeah.
have the hands-on experience, and I'm just more of like the analytical looking at it kind of a guy. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. And like if I ever do talk about like my experience fighting training, I'm not trying to come from like it's a modern perspective. Like, I was a kid. Like I'm not trying to be like, oh, I was this professional fighter or anything like that.
Mm.
But I'm sure Dakota, if we ever manage to get her on as a guest, she'll tell you what kind of culture like we had in that gym. Like it was a very like everyone become in my year group, everyone was a champion, like in some sense. And I imagine it's the same with Dakota's year group as well, because a mum instills such a professional way of doing things and she was so good at advice as well on the fly as well and stuff like that because she used to be a policewoman. I don't know if she still is, but she used to be a policewoman as well. So she had like she had like a lot of respect because it's hard to be respected as a police person on this kind of estate as well. So for her to be able to do that and also be very respected in this community was just showing you how much of a great woman
How
she
Yeah,
was.
right. How respected she was that
Yeah,
despite being a police officer, she still had respect from the community and from you guys. So that's awesome.
yeah.
So if we can take a second just to say it's Dakota Dichkova, right? How do you say it?
Uh, Dicheva.
Dicheva.
Yeah,
So
Dakota Dicheva.
Dakota
The
Dicheva.
Bulgarian. Yeah,
Hungarian.
No, Bulgarian.
Oh, Bulgarian. I think it's Hungarian.
Yeah,
I'm like, my family's Hungarian. She's Bulgarian. Nice.
yeah, yeah.
So, Dakota, listen, he trained where you trained. Come on the show.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's it. That's
No,
my one
yeah, of
plea.
course. Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, I will reach out in the future,
Yeah.
and try and get her on. She is literally a mega star right now, so it might be pretty hard, and like we don't offer
We got to
many
shoot our shot,
incentives.
my guy.
But that's what I'm gonna say. Like we don't offer many incentives at the moment, but hopefully she's got a nice heart and she wants to give someone a good start out in like the MMA podcasting world. You know what I mean?
For
So
sure.
I will reach out. Whether she will see it or not is a different matter. But yeah,
So,
hopefully it would be nice to have like an actual fighter, like not me who talks about amateur experience as a kid. Like she's literally in there right now in one of the best organizations. Like, in fact, the next fight is Talia Santos, who used to be in UFC.
that'll be interesting. Talia is
Hmm.
a little bulldog, man. She's a little wrestler.
I know.
She's quite good.
That's what I am worried. I trust Dakota, and I think her timing is awesome. Like, so I think to shoot in on her is a bit of a risk. But this is the first fight where I'm like, oh, this is the test, you know? So hopefully she wins. But even if she doesn't, I still think like she can come back and she's got like such a great career ahead of her.
And how old, if you had to guess, I mean, without looking it up, she's a few
Oh, I
years younger than
think she's
you.
about 22, you know? She's very young.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah, so
I'm going to
no,
check.
actually, probably a bit older now. Probably about 25 now.
Check.
'Cause she was a little baby when I was about 10.
Dakota Dicheva. Let's see. She is 25. Yep, you are correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I just try to think back, like, to when I was a kid and she started. Basically, I remember her mum being pregnant with her. Like, that's how, you know what I mean, how long I've known her family for. And I remember her mum being away and then coming back with the baby. And then I remember when she could, like, kind of walk and stuff, she was just in the gym constantly, Dakota, like, just crawling around. So you can literally see why she's become what she has become.
So she was in there, like literally from a baby, like toddler,
Yeah,
to an adult, full adult now. She's just been living that culture. So that would be
yeah.
a very good interview. A very good. I mean,
Hmm.
and not even just her specifically, but honestly, anybody, if anybody happens to watch this later, who's training to be a professional fighter or amateur, even for that matter, I'd love to have you on. Just to kind of talk about those experiences and then living that life and just the aspects of it that you don't even think about, like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go running or whatever. So I'd love to have anybody on that would be willing to talk about those things.
Yeah, like another thing, like you say about waking up in the morning and stuff like that, is the dreams. Like when I used to fight, like you have so vivid dreams of fights, like the full fight will play out in your dream, and like you can't really change anything because it's something that's already happened. Like this is my perspective anyway. But like literally, I'd have full on dreams of just full fights that I've had and like how they ended, or sometimes they'll end in controversy. Like I remember I kicked a kid in the head in one fight and got disqualified because you're not allowed to do that at the amateur level. So things like that, I'd always dream about that, and
How it
then
could have
then
gone
in my head
differently,
I
or
think, yeah, I wish I took it to the body instead. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of like I'd love to speak to someone who's more from a wrestling background personally because I've never experienced that at all. But yeah, like just anyone, if anyone wants to come on and have a chat about your career, whether I don't care whether you've had 4 fights or 45 fights, and you're retired. I don't care whether you've only done it regional or you've done it national or whatever level. Like even if you've only ever had white collar boxing matches, like just anyone that can offer us a perspective on it would be great.
yeah, I would definitely. I mean, even to be fair, even if you only had one professional fight and you said this isn't for
Yeah.
me, I don't care. I'd like to talk to you because it just there's a unique personality that it takes to become a professional fighter. Somebody who's going to say, yeah, sure, I'll get punched in the face for money, and I want to talk to you.
Yeah, that's it. I think as well, like more so people, like for people like me in Dakota, it was something that we're just used to. It's like something like you just get put into as a child, almost like soccer or whatever practice. So we probably don't have that perspective of being someone with your own kind of conscious deciding to want to do that because we were kind of just not
You were
say
put
pushed
into
into
it.
it by our parents, but yeah, it's just something that people did, you know what I mean? And all your friends did and stuff like that. So it didn't seem anything different to us to get punched in the face because that's what we did like 3 times a week.
Gotcha.
So yeah, like it'd be nice to speak to someone who decided it more maybe late teens or
Yeah,
just as an
then
adult.
wasn't necessarily raised in it, but like came to it on their own, like later in life. Yeah, I get that. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, because that's another thing that makes me laugh. Whenever I see videos of kids doing Muay Thai or kickboxing, I notice in America it gets a lot of like, oh, kids can't do that, kids shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I
Whereas
mean,
it's
I
quite
feel like
normal here.
there's two camps. There's camps that'll say, "Oh, you shouldn't have your kids doing that," but then you have the people who are like, "Why? It toughens them up. It teaches them, while
Yeah,
they're young, to defend themselves and to kind of take matters into their own hands if they need to." So I think there's two different um,
yeah.
mindsets that people have.
The way I look at it is it's not much different to American football practice or rugby practice. Like when you take a tackle in rugby or American football, that shocks your head as much as like taking a punch. So
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. You got to stop doing them things if you want to stop kids from fighting as well.
but then you have the people who will say, "Yes, let's stop doing that." So
Yeah.
we don't want to give them the power to say that.
No, yeah, exactly.
Because then they're going to take away soccer because of the slide tackles, and then
Yeah, and the
it's just
heading.
yeah. I hope you can't head the ball because that's going to give you a
Yeah.
concussion.
But that is an actual. I don't know if it's come into place in the UK at the moment, but they are banning it. I think for under 10s or something like that. So no more heading. But it's like, how are they going to learn? Like, so they get to adult, and then all of a sudden they've got to learn how to head a football. Like, so that won't be natural to him. So I just don't understand
Yeah,
that.
that's crazy. That's wild, man. It's. I guess it's a symptom of the times that we grew up in. The a little more old school, and then even the people who are older than us would see some of the things that we had to do when we were kids, and say that we were too soft. So I think it's just
Oh yeah,
as things go on, it gets
well
softer
that's
and
it.
softer.
To bring it full circle, we used to get told that by certain people because we'd wear shin guards, bodyguards, head guards, thumb guards, and certain people would be like, "What you wearing all that for?" Like, like if you got into a fight in the street, you wouldn't have
You
all
wouldn't
that.
wear all that. Yep.
Yeah. So, no matter what you do, there'll be an older generation that didn't have those things that think,
Call you
well,
weak or whatever.
I got along without it, so you should too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's natural. It's as natural as criticizing the young kids pop culture terms. It's just you're
Yeah.
weird, you're different, you're not like we were when we were kids. We were cool. We did things the right way.
Yeah, it's always the way. I've always said that. Like, I've never understood this thing of where every generation we go, we had it better. Like, we had it better than the young generation, or they're too soft, or they have it too easy. It's like, yeah, but
Nostalgia, man.
that's how it should be, though. Every generation should have it easier. They should have it better, and
Yeah,
things should be like more catered to them. Because if not, then us as a generation has failed. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I mean, I want my son's life to be easier, better, and more fulfilling than my life was. So I definitely understand. It's if not, it is a failure. I get what you're saying with that for sure.
Yeah.
100% for sure.
Yeah, I've never understood that thing. But looking at my notes,
Yep.
I want to discuss this goes a bit dark now. The one I mentioned about Jermaine Genius, who's a former football player, he used to play
Mhm.
for Tottenham in England. So he got he got sacked by the BBC for sending inappropriate texts to female colleagues of his own, yeah, which is probably sexual or something like that, right? There's not been much detail other than like it was just inappropriate. So he gets full on sacked or fired without pay, obviously. But then there's a newsreader called Hugh Edwards who's been caught with lots of, I don't want to say the word, but CP.
CP, yeah.
Most people know what that is.
He's a PDF
Got caught,
file.
yeah, PDF, all that jazz. So,
Yeah,
so he's literally that, right? He is literally a PDF file. Like he's been caught with thousands of images, hundreds, however much, and he's claiming that like something else has put that on his computer. So that's his like defense. But the way our BBC have reacted to him is they've suspended him on full pay. So I find that really interesting how Jermaine Venus gets taken off BBC entirely without any pay for inappropriate messages to colleagues, which were grown adults. And but yet he has CP on his computer,
Mhm.
and they keep him around, like they're hoping he's going to be exonerated or something.
Yeah.
And
Before I comment on that, I just want to say shout out to Kronos for what's up, man. Yeah, we're still on YouTube. We still do stuff. Check us out on Rumble. But what I wanted to comment on that is it it's it's a double standard for sure, but it shows you that they don't care about the kids, man. Like
yeah,
it's all like virtue signaling, like oh you know Me Too, women's rights, and all that stuff. It's and then when you say oh but you know they're the kids, yes, like literally like kid stuff, and everybody's like well it might not be his. Like why? That's such a weird double standard, and it's
it
disgusting.
is.
It's gross, and it's like wow, dude, that's crazy. Like I can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
And like you hit the nail on your head. I think it shows what their moral set is as a
Mm.
company. Like, especially given they're famous for having Jimmy Savile on
That
their book, so
that was in
is
my
that what you had
notes.
down? Yeah. So sorry to take that off you, but um, that's what I find crazy is like, so I'd say he's probably European's most infamous PDF file. Maybe one of the world's. I don't know how Americans look at him, but especially in Europe.
Mm.
Um, and he had close ties with Prince Charles and all this.
The whole
So
royal
to me,
family, like what was
yeah,
Prince Andrew and like this whole like gross like on the
yeah,
radio every day. Like, but was he on? He was on BBC then, right? I mean,
yeah. He was on BBC and ITV. He did Top of the Pops, which was like basically the only show at the time which would have all your like Nirvana and all your big pop stars coming on and stuff like that. He would have charity stuff where he had this show called Jim Will Fix It where kids will write to him and then he would like kind of like make a wish kind of thing. So kids will write to him, and then he'd just say they wanted to go and see a footballer. He'd go and then pick them up, and then they'd go and meet their favorite football player, things like that. But
yeah. Then who
also,
knows what happened afterwards, right? Like
yeah, he
when the
also had
cameras were
keys
turned off.
to. Yeah, that's it. He also had keys to the prison that the Yorkshire Ripper was in, and one of his bodies was found only like 100 meters away from Jimmy Savile's property. So people think the Yorkshire Ripper was part of that thing. And he also had keys to a mental institute in Manchester and a hospital in Manchester, which he had free access to and free reign to. So, like, it's almost like the BBC given power to
Mhm.
these kind of people.
Yeah, I mean it's like, and again we were trying not to go too dark, but we're going to
Mm.
here, and it's like Epstein here, his connections that he built with like President Clinton and all these Hollywood celebrities who rode on his planes and stuff like that, giving him free pass, and I see a lot of parallels with that. He was
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much of it's true, how much of it was sensationalized, but I did watch a documentary about Jimmy Savile several years ago. How he was like this mega star. Like people
Mhm.
knew Jimmy Savile, they adored him, and like they saw that he could do no wrong. So like they kind of
Yeah,
turn that blind eye, and I feel like that's kind of that same thing with the whole Epstein and all those creepy people.
yeah. To again, I'm not saying this guy is on the same level, but he almost had the same method as Mr. Beast of the whole charity and philanthropy. I can't say the word, but
Right, right, right.
you know, all that stuff. And then it built him a reputation where no one would ever question him because everybody thought, well, what if Jim will fix it for me? So he might fix it for me one day. So I don't want to question him, and stuff like that. And then there was a lot of, because he was a famous radio host, there was a lot of people in music that probably wouldn't want to question him. Like, there was a famous one where there was a punk guy. I can't remember what band he was in, but he did the song "God Save the Queen." God save the Queen, she ain't no human being. Like, I don't know if you ever heard that fascist regime, but
No,
it's an old famous song. But he was part of that punk group, and in like the 80s, he actually on video mentioned Jimmy Savile, and he's probably like the first person I that ever got cancelled in terms of TV and stuff, because once he started saying people need to look into Jimmy Savile, he just didn't get any gigs, didn't get on TV anymore, and anything like that.
it'd be the
So
Sex Pistols, my guy.
yeah, it was the Sex Pistols, I think. Yeah. Um, yeah, great bands, man. Like if you're into that kind of stuff. But yeah, so one of their members mentioned it like way before people were talking about it because he said everyone talks about it in the celebrity circles,
Mm,
and he said I'm tired of this being like an open secret to everyone and no one discussing it.
no one talking about
And
it.
yeah, and
So
that's
is that kind of what you're implying about the BBC as a whole with this gentleman that got basically a slap on the wrist? Like it's
yeah.
part of that BBC culture of you're one of us, so we're gonna hide stuff.
I want to go an extent further. I think it's more the upper class culture, however you want to call them, the aristocracy or whatever you want to call it. So if you look at the royal family, Prince Charles' best man at his wedding was Jimmy Savile, and his wedding advisor was Jimmy Savile, Europe's most popular, or not most popular, but most known PDS bio. Yeah.
Most
And
notorious,
then,
yeah.
yeah. And then you look at his brother Andrew, who was just arrested with the Epstein stuff. So
Mhm.
between them, they have, as their best friends, the two royal princes have Europe's most notorious one and America's most notorious one. So clearly that's what they seek out. Like people try and say that these people are corrupting the royals, but I don't think it's that way around. I think the royals seek these kind of things out for whatever reason.
The royals are just that way, and then they look for the people who are like
Mhm.
them or who will support them and put them in positions of power and of notoriety.
Yeah. And that's how I kind of look at it as like an aristocracy thing because you look at the Epstein client list, it's all like, Clintons have been there. I don't know. I think Trump's been to the island. I wouldn't be surprised if Obama went to the island and Biden's been to the island. So everyone that's mega influential and rich has been tied to it. And then you look at the Diddy stuff as well. Like
Mhm.
that's like a lower version of that. So you have your aristocracy, and then you have your famous kind of
Mhm.
people, which is like a level below. So he's kind of fulfilling that role for that kind of power
Mhm.
dynamic as well.
That's
And I
weird that you
know we
bring
said
that
we didn't
up.
want to get too dark, but
Yeah,
like I do think this is worth discussing. Like,
yeah,
and I think if you disagree with what we're saying, you're bloody weird in the head.
yeah, exactly. It's weird we bring the Diddy stuff up because before the podcast, after I was talking with Alicia and she was watching a video about the whole Diddy situation and she was showing me some stuff and it's just like, yeah, if what we're saying right now somehow offends you, like like your priorities are weird, right? Like leave the kids alone, right? Like
Yeah.
that should go without saying. Leave the kids alone. That shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't be something that people have to cover up for. Like kids, they're innocent. Leave them alone.
Hmm. And like not even kids, like people, stop forcing things on people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm sure like the Diddy stuff and the Epstein stuff, it's not all just children, it's women and men. So,
Yeah,
like,
to take it
uh,
a step further, yeah,
yeah,
if somebody, you're trying to compromise somebody else at the expense of a third party, like that's just gross, man. Like you're taking advantage
mm,
of people, and it's just gross, and nobody should feel comfortable defending that activity. Like it's gross.
yeah, it's freaky, man. It's proper freaky to think that, like, how long has this kind of thing gone on for before the internet? Because now it's hard to hide like big secret groups with the internet. So you got to wonder how many more people have been like this. Like you can see Oprah Winfrey with Harvey Weinstein, how she was kind of like his go-to for a lot of that stuff.
Defending and like yeah, that
Yeah,
whole thing was just it's all yeah. What the internet has just brought stuff to the light. People say it's more prevalent now than ever before, but I doubt it. I just think it's more easily accessible by all of us to
no,
see. So
like and think of it. So think of how easy it would have been for these groups to operate in war times like World War Two and one times when everything was up in the air. It would have been so easy for them to operate because they probably weren't too affected by the war because part of the aristocracy, probably like in castles living well.
yeah,
And
far away from the front lines.
yeah. So like I think it's just always been this way. Like we've literally as we've become more modern, we've had to make laws for the average person not to do stuff with children, like because it was that common. So yeah, and then you look at like it just seems to happen wherever there's a group with a big power dynamic. Like you look at the Catholic Church in
Hmm.
in this country and in Ireland. I imagine it's been the same out in the US. You know, it just
Certainly.
seems like wherever there's a group with power, like that's how it ends up being. Like that's how it ends up acting.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just it's gross. I don't have words to describe the
Mm.
disgust that I have for people who take advantage of other people and use them for various activities that I don't want to get into. Like it breaks my heart. It's disgusting. It's gross, and I don't know. I guess as I get older, I don't want to I don't want to think about it. But then I feel like
Yeah,
by not thinking about it, I'm doing the victims a disservice because I'm not talking about it.
yeah, that's
If
it.
that makes sense.
No, I totally get you because it's not something I'd necessarily want to focus on and talk about a lot. But sometimes I think when you can see like a blatant case like the one I pointed out with the
Hmm.
two presenters for the BBC, like sometimes I think it's only right that as a citizen you should kind of say that if you have a public platform to say it
Hmm.
because like you say if you don't then you're kind of playing into their hands.
Yeah, if you're not actively fighting against it, you're silently supporting it, and I don't want to be a silent supporter.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be crazy like to even be close to wanting to be, it's like, again, to take it onto another subject, which can get quite tense, it's like royalists at the moment. Like, I don't understand how anyone can be a royalist at the moment when you see how they've operated. Like, so they have Prince Andrew, who's used 12 million of our tax money to pay off victims, and yet Harry gets kicked out of the family for just having a baby who's slightly brown.
Right,
Like,
right. Like has a
like
tan.
so
Like somebody has a tan, and
yeah,
you're mad at them.
yeah, like oh how dare you? And people can say, oh, that's just a rumor, but there's been a lot there's a lot of stuff that have been put out where when she was pregnant, some of the stuff that the family members were saying to Harry and stuff like that, it's very obvious that they were bothered about what the baby would look like and stuff like that. So
That's wild, man.
all these royalists, yeah, I find all these royalists that want to deflect from Andrew onto Meghan and Harry, you're just mad in the head, right?
Yeah,
And
you're a
you kind of
hypocrite.
showing, yeah, that's it. You're showing your own kind of prejudices as well there, I think.
Yeah, and I don't have. That's not the culture here. Like I mean, the real royal family. Like we don't really care about your royal family. I haven't met one person who really cares. I mean, to be fair,
Yeah.
no offense,
No, I'm happy
but
about that. I'm happy about that.
it's like every once in a while when there's like a royal wedding, we watch it because it's a spectacle and it's like
Yeah,
a soap opera, you know. And it's not like because we care about the royal family. It's just like you guys do pomp and circumstance, and there's, a big band.
yeah.
It's the whole thing. But like as far as your royal family, and I mean, when your queen died,
Well,
we kind of like, well, oh, she's been a queen for like 70 years, but like,
yeah, that's it. Oh, it's the end of an era. Like, but yeah, so I'm glad you get to enjoy the weddings that I pay for. Like, that's nice to know, you know. But that's what kills me off is like, like where I live, there's literally people starving, like we rely on food banks and stuff like that. And then so then to see like they would just happily line the streets with gold and do all this mad stuff while people are literally starving, hungry. Like
mm,
it's just horrible. Like
yeah, it's ridiculous. And I think I'm glad that we don't have that
yeah,
royalist culture here. I mean, we do with like presidents and stuff like that, but like it is different here. It's not the same.
yeah, it is. Like you get close to it, I think, with certain celebrities and certain like politicians and stuff like the Clintons, the Bushes, now the Trumps, and the Obamas are pretty similar to royals in how they're revered and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, at least with you guys, at least you can create new ones. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
we get to choose ours, right?
Yeah, yeah. Whereas we're just stuck with it. Like I always say this, like we had a referendum for Brexit to be part of Europe or not. Let's have a referendum about the royal family. Let's do a vote on that because I'm pretty sure if it was legit, they wouldn't exist anymore through a legal
Nah,
vote.
they're never gonna do that though. You know that
No,
they're just there to suck your tax dollars and just wave.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's crazy, man. Like, yeah, that's the one thing I'm proud of America for is that
We got rid
fight
of
for
them.
independence. Yeah, like people think a lot of Brits are like, a lot of Americans on the internet would, oh, we beat you in the war. And it's like, no, we're happy you did that. You give our royals a good like back a good hiding, like and it was all about tax, which is something we hate as well. So it's
Yeah,
not like we
you guys are
disagree with
taxed
you.
to death over there, man.
Yeah,
How
it's
much do you have to
crazy,
pay
man.
to watch TV?
Um, Personally, I don't know because I refuse to pay it, but my mum pays it. I think it's like £14 a month, which Netflix is 7. So yeah.
Just to have a TV to be able to watch the
Well,
BBC?
you know why that is? Yeah, it's so essentially the TV license isn't for the TV. It's because it has access to the BBC. So even if
It's a
you don't have a
tax
TV,
to help
yeah,
support
yeah,
public broadcasting.
exactly. So even if you don't have a TV, like I lived in a flat with my friend at the time, and these uh bailiffs come around because we hadn't paid the license, and we said we don't watch BBC, and he said, well, we want to basically try forcing themselves into our house, and what they wanted to do was they wanted to see whatever laptop, phone, device, or anything that could have access to BBC. So even if you don't have it downloading, they still go off that of, well, you can download it on
Hmm.
this device, so now you have to pay this TV license. Like
That's
I've
so
always
crazy.
refused to pay it. Like luckily I'm at my mum's now and it gets paid by my mum, so tax people don't come here. Like, but whenever I've stayed by myself, I refuse to pay it. Like
Yeah.
the bailiffs come around, I literally tell them, you enter this property, I take it as a threat and I'm gonna beat you up. So make that choice.
Well, I mean, I guess one of the good things that comes from that though is that you get free pay per view.
Yeah. But
You don't
again,
have to pay for the fights.
that's only because of like the UFC's model, though. It's not because of a TV license. Like, so if there's a big anti-Joshua fight, we have to pay-per-view. But I don't think UFC is popular enough yet. Like, so if Conor McGregor was fighting, it'd be on pay-per-view.
Uh,
Um, but like even Aspinall is not on pay-per-view at the moment,
what
so
are
I
they on,
don't
like
think
BT Sport or something like that?
yeah, it's
Typically,
called TNT now. But
oh
yeah, it's
TNT.
usually on. Yeah, they've rebranded to TNT, but that's usually what it's on.
That's interesting. I wasn't sure how that worked for you guys. I mean, like fight nights and stuff we get for free because they're whatever, you know.
Yeah,
But well, not for free. I should rephrase. We get on a paid TV package or whatever. But the
well, yeah,
UFC fights and stuff, the big ones are pay per view model.
that's how it works for us. So essentially, TNT we pay for that service, separately. So
Mhm.
I think it just kind of TNT have done a deal to where we get it included with our package rather than it be a separate pay-per-view event all the time.
That's cool, man. So at least you get to watch them even if it's 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that leads me on to something actually. Just before I come on, I was watching a video,
Mm-hmm.
and so UFC Notches, the prices of the tickets have gone down by 60% from the starting price.
So
I
the
think I
the
don't.
the sphere, you have a
Yeah,
fear of the sphere not selling out.
yeah, and that also, I think that's partly why. Remember when I said, and showed you a screenshot of my TV, and I said, "Oh, they're offering 50% off on the pay-per-view,"
Mm-hmm.
and you said, "Oh, that happens pretty much every broadcast," and I said, "Oh, I've never seen that before over here." I actually think that's partly why we were getting to see that in the UK as well. But I think they're so desperate to try and even con people in England to pay for the American pay-per-view, like, because I just feel like the Sphere, it must cost them so much to rent that out.
For
And then
sure.
they've got the guy, Sean O'Malley, who they're claiming is the big star, the Conor McGregor, and it's just not selling. And then they've tried using Mexican independence as like a thing to latch onto as well. And none of these gimmicks seem to be working for him. So I'm intrigued. Is that because it's at the Sphere and because they overpriced it, or is it because the stars aren't selling?
Well, I can offer you a third option that I think maybe you haven't thought of. What if they want this event to be like the most purchased as far as units pay per view of all
Yeah,
time? So like they're just looking at number of units sold, so they're reducing the ticket prices to a point to where they can surpass all expectations. So maybe they're
yeah,
just thinking like, hey, we need to sell 5 million more tickets or 5 million more pay per views. How are we going to do that? Let's cut the price, and now it'll be. We can always say UFC at the Sphere was the most bought pay per view of all time.
yeah,
That's kind of what
yeah.
I think is going to happen. Is they're kind of cutting their. They probably did overprice it, and then now they're like,
Hmm.
okay, well, we still aren't reaching the goal of it being the greatest pay per view ever. So we're going to reduce the price so that way we can say
Yeah.
the Sphere was the most bought pay per view of all time. That's kind of where
It wouldn't
my
surprise me. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Because they do like to manipulate, kind of, in a sense. And they did that. So when they come to Manchester recently, the arena that they all fought at was a brand new arena. I think it was like the second event that's ever happened at that arena. And Dana White after it is all like, "Yeah, we've just done the biggest ticket sales in that arena ever of all time." And I'm like, "Dana, the arena's been open 2 months. Of course you have." Like, the last act that was there wasn't bloody. It was a comedian called Peter Kay. You know what I mean? So
right. I
yeah,
mean,
so
it could be that. I do honestly, that would be my opinion, is that they're just
yeah,
trying to make those numbers look really good. And but also at the same time, I think what you said is true. Like they're trying to make Sean O'Malley a mega star,
yeah.
and they like I feel like they're getting kind of tired of Connor not fighting, so they're trying to get his records broken too, if that
You know
makes
what though?
sense.
That's the ironic thing. So you say they're tired of Connor not fighting, but they're not offering Connor fights. Like Connor is desperate to fight. But the thing is, if he fights, then his contract's run out. So they're desperate to keep him on contract because as soon as he fights, Connor's gone from the competition from UFC because then he has no obligations to stay with him. So yeah, I do think there is part of that with the O'Malley stuff is the desperate to build him into this star. But Connor was a star because he was a star because his nation backed him, and then Britain backed him, not Ireland backed him, but also Great Britain backed him as well. And then I think that translated to a lot of American as well. Like they started backing him because
Yeah, we
big
have a
Irish
huge Irish
communities out
American
there.
population, so
Yeah. Whereas with Sean O'Malley, like which it's kind of an American issue, this as well. What I notice in boxing is even his own state doesn't ride for him. I don't even know what state he's from, but let's just say he's from New York. Like, you don't see thousands of people flying out of New York and flying into, just say, Saudi Arabia whenever he fights there. Like, so if you saw Ricky Hatton, which is, I want to go something that's not UFC. Whenever Ricky Hatton fought in Las Vegas, that was sold out in Las Vegas mostly because of English people that flew over there. You know what I mean? Whereas you don't seem to see that with a lot of American kind of athletes. Like John Jones is a good example. He should be a huge star. Like he should be breaking all the numbers. Like if he
Mhm.
was English, he would be breaking like mega numbers, you know what I mean? Whereas for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because your states are all divided or something, I don't know. But for whatever reason, like even the home state doesn't seem to get behind like combat sports stars like that.
Yeah, I think you kind of got that right. There's it's weird. There's not really state pride. It's not like a thing. It's not part of our culture. Like
Yeah,
it's more the country, the American pride. Like that's the kind of pride that we carry. We don't carry like I'm from Central Florida. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like whereas you guys
No,
are
but
very like Manchester, Liverpool,
yeah.
London. Like it's very divided. Whereas here it's like I don't know. We're all it's American pride.
No, but
That's
even so, like I used Ricky Hatton as an example. Like it wasn't just Mancunians following him around, it was England, you know what I mean? It was Great Britain. Whereas you guys don't have that. So if Sean O'Malley comes and fights, just say over here on a UK card, like that stadium would be full of Brits. I mean, I
yeah,
think UK is probably a bad example, but let's just say he fought somewhere like Holland, that would be full of Dutch people. Like
mhm.
that's who the crowd that they're trying to get in there. Whereas if
Well,
a British guy goes and fights anywhere,
yeah,
like the city is buzzing because that city knows that there's going to be thousands of British people flying out there and boosting the economy. Whereas
sure.
like that doesn't seem to happen with your combat sports stars. Like I think Mike Tyson was the only one I saw that was quite like that.
I think that goes to the like that whole thing that Americans don't travel internationally. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
just one of
maybe.
those
Yeah,
things. Like,
yeah.
our
You guys should
country's.
start backing your sports stars more, man.
I'll let them know. I'll tell every American that they need to start backing their sports stars more.
Yeah, please.
All right.
But you know what? What's funny is you said about the state thing, but you're from a place where that kind of happened with Masvidal. I always felt like Masvidal got a lot of support from like Miami in particular. So uh, you
That
would
that
see it with the odd one.
yeah, there's definitely that like even Nate and Nick Diaz that Compton
Yeah,
or Stockton rather pride, but it's not universal for sure.
yeah.
Anyway, I think that pretty much covers everything we want to do to cover as far as combat sports, as far as those sort of topics, and we're approaching the 2 hour mark here. So, if there's anything you want to cover before
Indeed.
we jump out,
Yeah. I want to say Logan Paul killed a dog. Like Logan Paul is a horrible person. He held a dog underwater and put its head purposely in the propellers, like to kill it, because he's a horrible person.
let's see. This is the video in question. Let's see if Logan Paul killed his dog.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. I've not actually seen the video, but like on the internet, like I just saw everyone being like, Logan Paul's killed a dog. So I found
Yeah,
that funny.
he jumped out and carried his dog, and he got him, back safe. So I
Oh, so the
think
dog is safe and sound.
yeah, oh yeah, the dog
Yeah.
is fine.
That that's what I was gonna lead into, right? So I thought the dog was dead this whole time.
No,
And then I was gonna say, so how horrible would it be if your dog died in a boating accident and then everyone wants to blame you for it? So not only are you mourning like your dog, who's probably his best friend, like he's got then he's getting blamed for it. it's kind of like karma in a way.
Right. I mean, well, if anybody deserves that shitty karma, that negative publicity, it seems like it's Logan Paul because he has
Yes.
been at the center of a bunch of negativity. So I'm sure he gets all the hate that he deserves.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but yeah, I found that one funny because
Yeah.
literally for one day it was like Logan Paul kills a dog. It was just fucking, it was just
It was everywhere.
hilarious. Like,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
everywhere. I saw it just even randomly. I wasn't even looking for it, and I just came across my feed and clicked on it. And I was, oh God, what did he do now?
yeah, me too. It was like that. Can't remember the Keemstar thing that he does. Is it Drama Alert? I saw that tweet and it like Logan Paul, does he kill the dog? And I was just like, I didn't even want to click on it because I can't stand that Drama Alert stuff. So that's why I didn't see the video. But yeah, then once it's like once I saw that, then that's all what my timeline was for like a few hours.
Yep, yep. But again, if you're the kind of person that people would just jump and believe that you killed a dog, then you're just not a good person anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. And quickly as well before we get off.
sure.
So have you heard much about the Costco guys?
No, what
No.
you had briefly mentioned it. I was like, oh, now I got to know what this
What is
is.
this? Yeah, so essentially, I'm kind of glad you're blind to it because I think it kind of is better that way, for your sake as well. But what it is a son and a father and a son,
Uh-huh.
and the video is we're Costco guys. Of course we like 58-inch TV, like that kind of stuff. We're Costco guys. Of course we like 4 foot tall teddy bears. So
Uh-huh.
that's how it kind of started out, and it's quite wholesome. Like just a father and a son, like showing off the stuff they enjoyed from Costco, and also because Costco, like we have Costco over here, like it's ridiculous, and everything's big and oversized, and
Uh-huh.
so that kind of suits it. But where we've got to now is the internet kind of hates them or loves them. It's a mixed bag, and like I can see why they hate them a bit because the dad has like that kind of psychopathic look to him that like we were discussing last week. Yeah, there he is.
I'm gonna pull it up. I have no idea what this is. So what is this?
It's took the internet by storm in the last few months.
But, no, that they just go around Costco and just like talk shit about or
Yeah.
talk stuff about Costco.
Yeah, and like they had a little war, like there's another Costco kind of thing in America, like a similar kind of shop. And there was
Hmm.
guys like let's just say it's called Walgreen or something. We're Walgreen guys, and and then they had a little bit of beef. And then it's ascended to like so now they do collaborations with like have you heard of Steve Will Do It?
Yes.
Yeah, so like they're doing collaborations with people like that now. And what there's one video that's come out of where the dad and the kids are like behind a social influencer, and basically the dad's directing the video, which I don't think is a bad thing, but people are taking it as like, oh, so they're not doing this for fun. This is forced and all this stuff.
Of
And I
course.
just
I
find it
mean,
funny.
duh.
It's Yeah, exactly. And it's similar to what we were discussing last week about the whole like forced like social media stuff. But for all I can see, these guys aren't pretending to be dead kind, or they're not pretending like they're just Costco guys. That's all they are. So I find the discourse a bit strange to be honest. Like until there is some weird stuff going on, then just leave them be.
Yeah. Whatever. It's that what we were talking about, that forced um what do you call it? Influencer, that fake influencer stuff. I was looking at like this thing. Did you see this?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna give him a bath and clean him up. Like, come on, dude. It's just all for show. Like
yeah.
these fake influencers doing anything for money at this point. It's
And
wild.
like I said, right, I don't know if this is being mean or not, but maybe in America it's different. I don't see many obese homeless people, so like that one there, it's like you know, you've just got a guy to made
Just a
him
paid
look a bit,
actor to give you
yeah,
revenue from people watching your video and pretending to be a
yeah.
nice person.
It's just crazy, and yeah. So I thought the Costco guys like kind of tied into that because like the kind of everyone's on one side of the fence at the moment. Like I'm kind of still on the fence. I'm a bit like, yeah, the dad looks a bit psychopathic, but who doesn't at the moment? Like we're probably looking that way to some
Oh yeah,
people,
for
you know what I
sure.
mean?
Right,
So
somebody's gonna feel that way about us, and
yeah,
whatever. Just defend yourself and move on.
yeah, exactly. But I just want to give a shout out as well to a YouTuber, not one that I know is quite big, called Meat Canyon. Have you ever watched his stuff?
No.
No, he's like an animator, and so he did one about the Costco guys about a week or two ago. Like basically he goes over the top. Like the kids in the cartoon ends up getting sold into slavery by Costco and the dad, and like it's dark, you know what I mean? But I found it funny because he did that, and then all of a sudden, like these videos come out behind the scenes, and I feel like Meat Canyon is very good at like seeing things
Before
before
they.
society sees them. Yeah, because he did it with Mr. Beast as well. He did a whole Mr. Beast one where Mr. Beast was just this psychopathic cartoon guy, like just throwing money at things. And then it was only like 2, 3 weeks later, like all the stuff about him come out.
Mm,
So I just want to give Me Canyon a big shout out for that because he seems to be. It's like he knows when the tides are about to turn, and he seems to be like the first guy that turns the tides, which
mm.
I find interesting.
Well, big shout out from the SydeBoob podcast. So,
Yeah,
all right, man. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me on this Wednesday night. We'll obviously have clips up throughout the week on both the Rumble channel and our YouTube channels. So look out for those on X. We'll post them with the hashtag SydeBoob, so that way they're very easily searchable, and we'll obviously share those out and whatnot. So, anything else you want to say, brother?
no,
All right,
all
man.
done.
Get some sleep,
All
man.
right.
I know it's late there.
I know, yeah, 4:35 in the morning, but
Oof.
just like a UFC card, so I'm not
Yeah.
too fussed.
All right. Well, I appreciate you,
But
brother.
yeah, yeah, man, you too. Nice speaking to you.
All right.
Have a good one, yeah.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon, and we'll figure out the next one next week.
Yeah, man. See you in a bit, bro.
All right. Yeah.